to 15.7 trillion naira at the end of December 2018.
Senior Democrats have responded by accusing him of committing a gross abuse.
The All Progressives Congress has vowed to punish the Ogun State Governor, Ibikunle Amosu.
You're welcome to Celebration Television News Desk. I'm Nicholas Akosle Walter. Here are the news making the headlines. Federal government extends NIN verification deadline till July 26th. Ethiopia announces Tigray ceasefire as rebels hold regional capital. UN Human Rights Chief calls for reparations over racism. Reps to summon FIRS, Folks Bank has $30 billion revenue pro begins. Switzerland knock world champions France out of Euro 2020. Please stay with us as we'll bring you details about news after now. Welcome back, and now the news in details. Federal government extends NIN SIM verification deadline till July 26. The federal government has approved the extension of a deadline for NIN SIM data verification to July 26, 2021, and the Director of Public Affairs Nigerian Communications Commission, Ikechukwu Ndinde, and the Head Corporate Communications Nigeria Identity Management Commission, Kayode Adegoke, disclosed this in a joint statement. According to the statement, the decision to further extend the deadline was made based on a request by stakeholders on the need to consolidate the enrollment and NIN SIM verification process following the rapid increase in the number of enrollment systems across the country. The statement quoted Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Dr. Isa Pantami, as thanking Nigerians for their patience and compliance with federal government's directive on the NIN SIM registration exercise. As the executive, also Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Communication Commission, Professor Umar Dambata, and the Director General CEO of NIMC, Aliyu Aziz, as urgent citizen and legal residents to make sure they use the opportunity of the extension to complete the process of enrollment and verification. Moving forward, presidency taking Niger Delta people for granted, says Pandef. The Pan-Niger Delta Forum reacted to the response of the presidency to the threat by militant group Niger Delta Avengers, describing it as a sign of insincerity. Panda said that the presidency's reaction was an indication that the presidency was taking the Niger Delta people for granted, having failed to implement the region's 16-point agenda. Recall that the Avengers had threatened to resume attack on oil installation with a view to crumble the nation's economy. But the presidency said the threat from the militant group was curious and unnecessary because it was coming barely 48 hours after President Muhammadu Buhari met with Niger Delta leaders and the Niger National Congress at the presidential villa, where germane issues received response. However, the Pandef's spokesman Ken Robinson said the response from the presidency was an indication that federal government was unserious with issues concerning the region. Meanwhile, the Niger National Congress has kept silence on the presidency's statement. In another development, INEC resumes continuous voter registrations and plans review. The Independent National Electoral Commission resumed its continuous voter registration ahead of 2023 general elections with a promise to review the exercise. INEC National Commissioner and Chairman Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, stated, he said, they are confident and hopeful that Nigerians will embrace the online registrations and are also confident that will ease their way of doing business, especially at the registration center. INEC had accredited 31 organizations to observe the CVR, while 20 more applications were being processed. Meanwhile, in Casino State, many residents and operators of cyber cafes claimed ignorance of the exercise. It was also observed that many electorate who could have done the registration on their smartphones equally claimed ignorant of the exercise. At the INEC state headquarters along Casino Daura Road, some of the commission staff members were seen enlightening the electorate on how they can carry out the registration on their smartphones. Quickly coming from around Africa, Ethiopia announces Tigray ceasefire as rebels holds regional capital. Ethiopia declared a unilateral ceasefire in Tigray as rebels claimed retaking the regional capital of Mekelle. In a statement, Addis Ababa said it was pausing hostilities to prevent disruptions to the famine season and to allow distribution of humanitarian aid. The United Nations has called for an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council to discuss the situation in the country. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres considered these events extremely worrying. The United Nations, Ireland, and the United Kingdom called for an emergency public meeting of the United Nations Security Councils on Tigray, diplomatic sources have said, adding that it could be held on Friday. Mekelle fell to the Federal Army on November 28, 3 weeks after Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed launched an offensive after the region's forced attacked and killed federal troops. Despite the victory proclaimed after the fall of Mekelle, the fighting never stopped between the pro-Tigray People's Liberation Front forces and the Federal Ethiopian Army. The rebels launched an offensive last week just as much as the rest of the country was holding highly anticipated national elections, the results of which have not yet been announced. And still coming from around Africa, Zambia approaches elections amid repression, Amnesty says. Zambia is on the brink of a human rights crisis, Amnesty International said, alleging the President Edgar Lungu is using repressive tactics to win another term in elections set for August 12th. Zambia has established a good track record of holding scheduled elections since the reintroduction of multi-party democracy in 1991 by founding President, the late Kenneth Kaunda, who had presided over a one-party system for over 2 decades. Kaunda accepted defeat after 27 years in power and retired. When Kaunda died, aged 97 earlier this month, he was widely hailed as a statesman and a revered fatherly figure. Zambia, a country of 18 million people, won a reputation as a stable democracy in a continent where elections often lead to conflict. Now, Amnesty International is accusing Lungu of trying to reverse those gains. This will be Lungu's last term in office if he wins, and Amnesty International is alleging that he's using repression to ensure victory. Zambia's Africa's second biggest copper producer is battling an economic crisis worsened by the outbreak of COVID-19, which has resurged in recent weeks. We'll go on a very short break. When we come back, we'll bring you updates from the United States. Stay with us. ignites the flame for unbridled unction, sets the pace for uncommon impact. Get ready for a moment of change to protect your identity in International Youth Conference 2021. Theme: purpose, passion, and power. Ministry: Pastoral Courage in Molere.
Powers that has vowed that you will always beg before you see favor. Powers that has vowed that you will always beg before you see lifting. After now, that yoke shall be broken.
Reverend John Asia.
The enemy takes advantage of our unbridled tongue. You are talking, be careful. You know, we look for trouble by ourselves, by too many information that we release out of our mouth.
Apostle Professor Johnson and Dr. Lizzie Suleiman.
A battle of service. Our youths, these days, this generation, God will help us. Who will feel your impact? Who will feel your impact if you even choose to leave this place now? The battle of service is a battle that is confronting the youth today.
Nothing severs you from entanglement like addiction to God's word. Your addiction to God's word is your severance and your cure.
Date 6th through 9th July 2021, happening at the International Worship Center, Omega Fire Ministries, kilometer 132, Benin Okene, Abuja Expressway, Auchi, Edo State, Nigeria. The time is 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. GMT+1. For inquiries, please call. It's time to break bounds. Welcome back, and now updates from United Nations. A human rights chief calls for preparations over racism. The United Nations Human Rights Council has urged global action, including reparations, to make amends for racism against people of African descent. Its new report also urged educational reform and apologies to address discrimination. The findings cite concerns in about 60 countries, including the UK, Belgium, France, Canada, Brazil, and Colombia. The study began after the murder of George Floyd, an unarmed black man in U.S. police custody in 2020. The findings says protests over the Minnesota man's death and the conviction of a white policeman were a seminal point in the fight against racism. In a statement, United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights Michelle Bachelet called on all states to stop denying and start dismantling racism and to listen to the voices of the people of African descent. If it's found that police use of racial profiling and excessive force was systemic in much of North America, Europe, and Latin America. The report said racism was the biggest problem in countries associated with the former trade of many millions of Africans for slavery. It praises Black Lives Matter and says the group should receive funding, public recognition, and supports. And Ms. Bachelet, a former president of Chile, said the reparations must not only be financial in nature, but include other guarantees to prevent future injustices. Mrs. Bachelet welcomed a promising initiative by United States President Joe Biden to address racial inequality, which involves attempting to level the playing field by treating racial groups differently based on perceived need. More updates from United Kingdom. School isolation rules could end in autumn. School isolation rules in England could be brought to an end in autumn amid concerns about the rising number of children who have to quarantine because their contacts of confirmed cases. Frustration among parents is building over the disruption of children's education and their working lives. The new Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, said he would address the issue. The Department for Education said that in order to keep as many children in face-to-face education as possible, ministers have written to secondary schools asking them provisionally to prepare to offer on-site testing after the summer break. Dame Rachel de Souza said there was an urgent need for children to get back to normal as lockdown restrictions had been a real trauma for many young people. She added that the need for children to go in and out of isolation was really a big issue and was proving incredibly frustrating for pupils and teachers alike. A CARMEL's official figures being released later are expected to show a further rise in the number of pupils at home. Last week, officials' figures showed that more than 250,000 children in the United Kingdom were absent from school because of COVID. Figures for 17 June showed that in England alone, 172,000 were self-isolating because of potential contact with a positive pupil in school. Daily testing as a replacement for self-isolation is being tried in a small number of secondary school and colleges. Quickly, we'll go to business news right now. Let's see how reps actually summons FIRS and force bankers $30 billion revenue probe begins. The House of Representatives Joint Committee on Finance, Banking and Currency has begun an investigation of the leakages amounting to $30 billion annually in the transfer of funds to execute international contracts, interbank transfers, among others. As in the inaugural investigative hearing, the committee, co-chaired by Mercer James Faleke and Victor Wonkolo, grilled officials of Citibank and Fidelity Bank over alleged infractions. In his opening address, Faleke recalled that the House, at its sitting on March 5, 2020, resolved to conduct an investigative hearing on revenue leakages in excess of $30 billion. Faleke noted the probe became necessary as a result of growing problems in the financial management of all the God-given resources in Nigeria. He listed the infractions to include lifting of some crude oil and gas by oil exploration companies, concealment and non-disclosure of some crude oil liftings overnight, and fictitious disappearance of Naira proceeds of foreign inflows and multiple foreign exchange allocations to holders of foreign inflow certificates of capital importation. Faleke directed the bank to make available all receipts of various transactions, and the committee also directed its clerk to write to the Federal Inland Revenue Service to appear before it to confirm the remittances. Omoke, while responding to the allegations, said the bank conducted its activities within the provisions of the Foreign Exchange Monitoring and Miscellaneous Provision. And still, on business news, diesel price jumps to 280 naira, and LCCI says inflation will rise. The price of a liter of automotive gas oil, also known as diesel, has risen to 280 naira, buoyed by the recent increase in global oil prices and naira devaluation. On February 24, 2021, reports had it that some filling stations in Lagos had increased diesel price to 250 naira per liter, while many others sold at it between 220 naira to 245 naira per liter. The global oil benchmark, Brent crude, which averaged $62.28 per barrel in February, stood at $75.10 per barrel yesterday. It was observed that the price of the product, which is not regulated by the government, ranged from 270 naira to 280 naira per litre in several filling stations in Lagos. Diesel is mostly used by businesses to power their generators amid lack of reliable power supply from the national grid. He noted that purchasing power had been weak and the exchange rate of the naira to the dollar had depreciated sharply. Last month, the Central Bank of Nigeria devalued the naira as it adopted the NAFEX exchange rate of 410.25 naira per dollar as its official exchange rate, days after removing the 379 naira per dollar rate from its website. The naira fell to 502 per US dollars on Monday at the parley market from 500 US dollars per dollar on Friday. According to him, diesel cost also has profound implications for transportation and logistics costs. We observe a very short break right now. As soon as we come back, we'll bring you sport news. Please don't go anywhere.
Hello, have you been searching for an appropriate platform to advertise and promote your product and services? Are you a minister of the gospel and you want your message to spread across the globe? Stop this search. We've got the coverage to give your voice and ministry the amplification you require. To get a rewarding and cost-effective solution to that business idea of yours, Celebration TV is here to take your dream to the climax. We provide the following services: voiceover production, documentary packages, video production of your event, video editing, script writing, affordable live broadcast of your events, and more. For more information, please contact us on +234 703 341 3637 or +234 816 234 8181. You can also reach us via our social media platform: Facebook Celebration TV, Instagram My Celebration TV, Twitter us at My Celebration TV, YouTube Celebration TV. And you can send us a mail on celebrationtelevision@gmail.com.
Welcome back and thanks for joining us on Sports News. Switzerland now world champions France out of Euro 2020. Kylian Mbappe missed a crucial penalty as Switzerland stunned world champions France at Euro 2020, winning 5-4 on penalties after their last 16 tie had ended in a thrilling 3-3 draw. Mbappe, the star of France World Cup triumph in 2018, had his penalty saved by goalkeeper Jan Sommer as Switzerland won a European Championship knockout tie for the very first time and advanced to a last 8 tie against Spain. Haris Seferovic had put Switzerland ahead in normal time, and Karim Benzema's brace and a Paul Pogba strike turned the tie around, but another Seferovic goal and Murillo Gavanovic effort took the match in Bucharest to extra time. In another sports news quickly, Spain beat Croatia 5-3 to reach Euro 2020 quarterfinals. Spain reached the quarterfinals of Euro 2020 on Monday after an epic 5-3 extra time win over Croatia, which set up a potential mouth-watering clash with Switzerland. Spain had looked to be cruising into the quarterfinals at the Parken Stadium in Copenhagen thanks to goals from Pablo Sarabia, Cesar Azpilicueta, and Ferran Torres, which had put Luis Enrique's side 3-1 ahead with 13 minutes remaining in normal time. However, substitute Mislav Osik pulled one back following a chaotic goal-mouth scrabble in the 85th minute and then supplied the cross from which Mario Pasalic headed Croatia level in the 2nd minute of stoppage time to take the match to the additional half hour. Spain eventually prevailed after some scares in a thrilling contest with a fine finish from under-fire forward Alvaro Morata and Mikel Oyarzábal's breakaway strike, giving Luis Enrique's side the win their overall play deserved. And Spain had not won a major tournament knockout match since thrashing Italy in the Euro 2012 final, but progressed to a showdown with Switzerland on Friday that is said to be played in St. Petersburg despite concerns about increasing coronavirus cases in Russia. That has brought us to the end of the news on Celebration Television News Desk. In case you actually missed out, here's the news headline recap. Federal government extend NIN SIM verification deadline till July 26. Ethiopia announces Tigray ceasefire as rebels holds regional capital. UN Human Rights Chief calls for reparations over racism. Reps to summon FIRS Foods Bank as $30 billion revenue probe begins. Switzerland knocked world champions France out of Euro 2020. Quickly, we have photo of the day. Photo of the day. Can you see that somebody up there, somebody down there, somebody is looking actually seeking for help, and there's a ladder that's already falling down. Others are the peaks in the act of help. The wrong intentions always influence the right actions. Know that you can as well drop your comments on our social media platforms on Facebook, Celebration TV, Instagram, My Celebration TV, Twitter at My Celebration TV, YouTube, Celebration TV. Always remember that your positive contribution to the wellness of the society you find yourself or the organization you work defines a leadership mind. As an individual who knows what to do and do without expecting to be pushed has backed these ways to success. Be it known today that everything we do, think, feel, and believe either has a positive or negative effect on humanity and a national well-being. Be a part of nation building today. Thank you once again for staying with us on our news desk. I remain Nicholas Akosile Walter. Great day ahead.
15.7 trillion naira by the end of December 2018.
Senior Democrats have responded by accusing him of committing a gross offense.
The All Progressives Congress has vowed to punish the Ogun State Governor, Ibikunle Amosun,